Balikan po natin ang pagdinig sa Senado kaugnay sa isyung Umano'y rice smuggling. Nagsasalita po si Davao City Mayor Rodrigo Duterte.
At worst, more than that, rice smuggling erodes the people's trust and faith in government, particularly in its capacity to enforce the laws, an erosion that cuts deeply into the very foundation upon which government authority rests. Loss of trust and faith is an ailment which our government cannot afford, not at this time, not ever. Later on, I was able to talk to Commissioner Henares by telephone. I could sense exasperation and frustration in her voice. The following day, I met and conferred with the District Collector of the Bureau of Customs, Attorney Samson Pacasom, to get the specifics of this rice smuggling in Davao City. Subsequently, upon my call and invitation, I met with the officials of the Philippine Port Authority, Philippine Coast Guard, Bureau of Customs, Bureau of Internal Revenue, National Bureau of Investigations, CIDG, PNP, Philippine Navy, and other agencies in brainstorming conference to ferret out the who's, the why's, how's, and when's of rice smuggling in the city. On January 10, 2014, I met with the local rice traders at Marco Polo, Davao City, after which I was interviewed by media. It was in that interview that I showed the picture of Mr. David Tan, the central figure in this mess. The trouble with us in government is that we talk too much, act too slow, and do too little. Let me ask, don't we? I heard it was said that what this country needs, given the prevailing conditions, is not more laws, but more good men in public service. Let me ask again, do we subscribe to that? Thank you, and good morning.
Salamat po, Mr. Mayor Duterte. Wala na ba po kayong i-add na kwento kung may nalalaman kayo dun sa rice smuggling sa Davao?
Problem, Your Honor, is that I am with the local government and the Bureau of Customs and other national agencies are distant stars from us. And I do not want really to just inquire without any significant or substantial authority because usually it will sometimes be the opposite that kaming mga mayor ay nagbibigay ng protection kaya hindi ako nakikalam talaga. But because of the request of Commissioner Henares, nagtatanong-tanong ako. And indeed, maraming smuggling sa Davao. Una niyan is outright smuggling. They come prepared with the complete papers, yung sinas-recycle. Ipapalusot nila yan, ma'am. Tapos, surreptitiously remove the rice out of the custom zones. Kung kaya nila yan, yun na yun. Hindi magamit yung permit. Pag nabunggo, poproduce ka agad yun nilang yung permit. But usually, kung nakalusot, gagamitin nila sa ibang shipment. Always meron silang yung permit. Other smuggling is outright. Talagang walang papeles. Others is you undervalue, and actually there's more in that container than what is reflected in the documents in customs, or misdeclaration. Yung cargo with lower tariffs, for example, farm implements, it's 1%, when as a matter of fact, it is rice nandoon. Yun lang ho, tatanong-tanong ako kasi wala naman ho akong authority talaga maghingi ng mga dokumento. Except that I was facing a blank call. I must admit that I'm quite ignorant about operations sa customs. So I met with the intelligence community. Kasi ang lumalabas doon sa investigation is David Tan. So sabi ko doon sa intelligence community, produce to me a face of David Tan. Sabi ko sa kanila, trabaho ninyo yan. I'm dealing with somebody na hindi ko kilala. I need a face. So, ang intelligence community ho, nag-produce ng binigay sa akin. Ito yon.
Pwede po kung you furnish us a copy of the face.
Gladly.
And siya ba ho yung nakikita nyo ngayon si Mr. Davidson Bangayan, yung face na yun?
He's the one portrayed in the picture.
Okay.
Not even similar. I think he's the one. I have no doubt about it. Galing ito ng, I am not a part of the military. And so we have observed that protocol that kung anong maibigay na sa akin, di ko alam kung sino talaga nag-produce. But I'm sure that I met them in the room at sinabi ko that I have to have something to start. Maski query lang dito, questions doon kasi kinausap nga ako ni Kim Menares. Asa, dumating ito sa akin, ito yung...
Marami pong salamat, Mayor Duterte. It's the turn now of the senators to ask by order of arrival. Tatawagin ko po si Senator Ponce Enrile, tapos si Senator J.V. Ejercito, and then Senator Grace po.
Pahintulot po na ninyo, Madam Chair, at saka ng aking kasama sa una, Senator Ejercito. Gusto ko sanang magtanong sa ating butihing mayor ng Davao City, isang kaibigan. Welcome to this Senate hearing, Mr. Mayor.
Salamat.
You're now the mayor, you're not the vice mayor of Davao City.
Mayor again, sir.
Salamat. Welcome to the Senate. Meron lang akong tatanungin po, nabanggit nyo na pinulong ninyo yung may nagkaroon ng meeting ang mga rice traders sa Davao City. At doon ay napasama yung isang trader na ang pangalan na kilala ninyo ay David Tan. Di ba?
Yun ang mga pangalan that keeps cropping up. I think there's no doubt in this room that he is really the one.
Kaya nga, sino yung sinasabi niyo na David Tan na nakilala niyo dun sa meeting na yun?
No, sir. Yeah, I said, in that meeting, I was furnished a copy. Right? Because right after that meeting with the rice traders, I met with the intelligence community because yung pangalan no, lumalabas, David Tan, sabi ko, wala akong, I need the face.
Nandito ba yung David Tan na yun?
Is the one?
Sino siya? Ito?
Yes, that's the one.
Si De Bangayan.
Yeah.
Ang sabi niya nung tinanong ko siya po, nagnenegosyo daw siya sa Davao City. Palagay ko naman sa opisina ng Pangulo ng lungsod ng Davao, ay nalalaman ninyo yung mga nagnegosyante na humihingi ng lisensya sa inyong lungsod. Ito ba ay merong negosyo sa Davao City?
A business permit. We would know, but the business permit, none. But it is bruited about that he goes there once a year, and therefore he is not a Davaoenyo. Once a year to ask questions about the business of scrap metal and fertilizer. Iyon ang negosyo niya pumapasok sa Davao. Of course, including the rice.
Salamat po.
Thank you, Senator Ponce Enrile. We now recognize Senator J.V. Ejercito.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kadamaga po sa inyo lahat. Nandito na rin lang po si Mayor Duterte. I'd like to take this opportunity to make use of his presence dahil nagsimula namang pumutok po itong rice smuggling after yung sa January 14 nyo na statement. No? Sa inyo po panunungkulan, Mayor Duterte, sa tagal nyo po sa Davao, gaano katagal na ho kayang ginagamit ang Davao Port sa tingin ninyo sa ganitong kalakaran ng rice smuggling?
I think it's my humble opinion na it has been going on ever since all ports, Manila, Cebu, Cagayan de Oro, Davao. Yun ho yung hulugan ng mga smuggled rice.
So,
and maybe other articles, other things.
So paano ho ninyo nalalaman, no? Alam ko hindi niyo po sakop yan dahil ito po ay dapat sa Bureau of Customs na smuggled rice, no? Ang binabagsak. Paano yun ninyo po nalaman na ganito po na nagkakaroon ng bagsakan?
Nandoon po yung sa Davao, ang shipper or the owner appearing in the document yung Starcraft. At nung dumating sa Davao, iba na. Joseph Ngo, at he offered to pay the customs duties, the tariffs and all, 50%. But sabi kasi which is also my stand, is that since there was no permit from coming from the NFA, talagang hinold. But unfortunately, nagkaroon ng injunction. So the judge ordered the release. And therefore, I can understand the situation of Civilia here, of the Bureau of Customs. He ordered the release of the rice. A part of that shipment was released because I believe that the customs just followed the court order under pain of course, in contempt if you do not. But my stand is that yung protocol ng atin dito sa WTO, we filed on time a notice that we are extending the restriction until 2017 para magkuha. And there was no objection, I think, from any member of the WTO, and that's why it stands. And to me, if there's no objection, there is nothing to answer. Everybody seems to, well, of course, agree. And 2017, the restrictions will still be there until that year.
So, Madam Chair, Mayor Duterte, sa ganitong parang modus operandi, kumbaga nagagamit ng mga big-time rice traders, kagaya ni Mr. David Bangayan, ang makorte, no? Kumbaga, sinasabi nyo kanina na parang wala hong magagawa ang Bureau of Customs kung hindi sumunod at i-release ang mga naturang smuggled rice. Tama ho ba?
Yes. And ang sinabi ko lang naman doon sa meeting, sa rice traders and everybody, including the military, the police, the NBI, they were all there. And I said, I want the smuggling stop. And I do not want to see any smuggled ever rice again in my city. And so I allowed the police to establish checkpoints. Because I don't in my city allow the establishment of checkpoints. But this time I asked the NBI to cooperate CIDG and to help government in stamping out smuggling, at least in my city. Bahala na ho yung iba. Doon lang ako nakialam sa Davao.
At Mayor Duterte, Madam Chair, sa ngayon po, kanina po, in-identify niyo po si Mr. Davidson Bangayan na siya po si David Tan. They're one and the same.
Yes, because I was, I would take notice of that pleading that he filed. There was his libel case, which he admitted in an affidavit. He was the complainant. As a matter of fact, this guy, he might be Davidson Bangayan, has been using that alias ever since. And to top of it all, he's really committing a crime.
Madam Chair, since Mayor Duterte has already identified Mr. Bangayan as David Tan, probably we could already act on the motion made by our minority leader a while ago to cite in contempt, as earlier Mr. Bangayan took his oath before this committee. So I hope that we can already resolve this motion to cite in contempt before the committee.
So, it has been moved and seconded. It has been moved by Senator Ponce Enrile and seconded by Mr. J.V. Ejercito. And if there's no objection, we cite David Bangayan for contempt of the Senate. Are there objections from the senators?
Your Honor.
Yeah. Can we hear Senator Angara?
I'm sorry I wasn't here earlier, but can we just, for those who were arrived after what happened, I just heard it on the radio on the way here. What is the precise reason we are citing him for contempt, Madam Chair?
Senator Ponce Enrile has papers to prove that Mr. David Bangayan and Mr. David Tan are one and the same. But Mr. David Tan said they're not one and the same. But Senator Ponce Enrile moved that we cite him for contempt because Senator Ponce Enrile is very convinced that he's one and the same. And we agreed, we suspended the session, we agreed that we will wait for the committee to decide whether we will cite him for contempt. And so we thought that we will do it next meeting. But with the testimony of Mayor Duterte, Senator J.V. Ejercito seconded that we should cite him for contempt. If there is no objection, then the committee will rule that we are citing for contempt Mr. David Bangayan, alias Mr. David Tan.
I'm not objecting, Madam Chair. I'm just asking the basis. And what would the punishment be if we cite him in contempt? Because he's already here before the committee.
We put him in detention. We can inform. We will give the floor to Senator Ponce Enrile.
You know, before the others arrive, I precisely gave the witness, Mr. Davidson Bangayan, a chance to explain his identity, real identity, because he filed a complaint affidavit before the city fiscal, I think, city prosecutor of Manila. And in paragraph 16 of that complaint affidavit, he stated this, and I will read again, so that for the benefit of those who were late in coming. Paragraph 16 of his complaint, of the complaint affidavit, filed under oath by complainant and affiant Davidson Bangayan. By the way, Mr. Bangayan, Mr. Bangayan, is this your signature? Will you show this signature to him? So that there will be no question. Kita mo lang kung signature niya yan at para kan. Is that your signature?
Yes, Your Honor. And
Okay.
it also indicate that I sign as Davidson Bangayan and not David Tan.
Oh, yes. It's, the document speaks for itself. We admit that. So that's your signature, huh? Okay.
Anyway, Senator Ponce Enrile, the committee is asking for suspension for us to discuss this issue among ourselves.
Madam Chair? Madam Chair? Madam Chair, here. Maybe I allowed to just wrap up my questions.
Yeah.
Just a few questions somewhere for Mr. Bangayan. Hindi po namin kayo pinapersonal, no? Kasi we do not want the proceedings, no? That will happen again because this is the Senate. And you took your oath, so hindi natin sana inyong maintindihan na kayo po ay cited for contempt because we feel that you did not tell the truth, no? Kaya lang, I would also commend you for showing up, no? And marami ho kaming nakukuha sa inyo. And I hope that you would continue informing us about the whole operation because this will be very helpful, Madam Chair, in our in aid of legislation of this in our fight against rice smuggling. So going back no sa dati ko tinanong nung nakarang linggo dahil naputulan tayo kinunan tayo ng oras. Sino ba ang ilang iyong mga kilalang may ganito ring modus operandi, yung ganitong big time, no? Yung rice importation. Meron ka bang kilala? Kasi naawa naman ako sa iyo na ikaw lang ang bugbog dito eh. Kailangan sabihin mo na rin kung sino pang iba.
Your Honor, kung babalikan po natin ang history ng sistema po nito, kasi dahil po sa mga sa aking opinion po, gawa po dun sa mga restriction yung mga import permits po. So dito po nagmumula yung mga ganyang klaseng mga operasyon eh. So it's common practice po yung permit binebenta po eh, no? So actually napakadami pong just like sa 2012 ang participant po doon is more than 200 participants in total po sa bidding na yon. So in fact, a fraction lang po yung sumali kami. So pag kinotal nyo po yun, out of 380,000 metric tons, wala pa po kaming 7% doon. So,
kaya nga po, Madam Chair, Mr. Bangayan, kaya nga yan po yung gusto nating malaman. Kasi ikaw ay isa ka lamang, no, sa mga mula nung nabuksan itong pagpapasok ng bigas, binuksan sa pribadong mga traders, eh ikaw lamang ang napupuruhan dito. Sa Davao ba, ikaw lang po ang, sa alam, yung pagkakaalam, ikaw lamang ang nagpapasok doon? Meron din sa Cebu. In fact, wala na si David Lim, no? Nawala, hindi na nagpakita ngayon. Meron din sa Cagayan de Oro, meron din sa Subic. So, malaki maitutulong mo kung iyo pong isisiwalat ngayon kung sino pang iyong alam na ganito rin ang kalakaran.
Siguro po patawag natin yung mga ibang mga participant din o mga sumali rin po. Tsaka ipagtanong po natin sa industry na napaka-common po ng practice naman na yan na yung binebenta po yung mga import permits. Tsaka napakadami po kung bubusisiin po natin, napakadami pong programa kasi sa NFA para sa mga farmer sector. Nandiyan po yung FAIR, nandiyan po yung IFAD. So, ito po parang schemes po to eh, no?
So, sa bakit, parang sinasabi mo rin, Mr. Bangayan, na dahil sa scheme ito ng NFA, no, marami ang nagbebenta na lamang nung authority. Halimbawa, nabigyan ang farmers group. Since hindi nila kayang ponduhan dahil nangangailangan ng malaking kapital ito, iyo bang para sinasabi mo ba na sa dahil lang hindi nila kaya, ang mga big time rice traders na gaya mo ay ginagamit na lang sila ang mga farmers group, no, para makuha yung kanilang import, yung kanilang authority to import. Tama ba?
Ano po yun eh, mga allocations po. Normally kasi, meron po kasi mga sitwasyon halimbawa sa isang programa ng NFA, meron po silang tinatawag na FAIR or what we call it, Farmers Incentive Rice Program. So, in the end of the day, dapat po ito pong programang ito, maprovidean po ng murang bigas ang ating mga farmers during lean months. So, pag inaward po sa kanila itong mga alokasyon na to, but sometimes hindi po available dun sa mga supposed to be regions nila. So, naililipat po ito sa ibang mga lugar na region na may available pong bigas. So, normally po, well, option po naman ng mga farmers yun kung hindi na nila ma-reach out yung regions na yon. So, they will monetize it or they will sell it at a premium.
So, Madam Chair, maging malinaw, no, sa inyo pong pag-imbita rin sa mga farmers group na mukhang gano'n na po ang nangyayari. No? Kinonfirm nyo na rin na kapag hindi po nila, yung mga import, yung mga authority na naibigay sa mga farmers, ay binibili na lang ng mga big-time rice traders. Tama ba?
Bago po ako mapasok sa hanap buhay ng bigas, yan na po yun eh. Doon na po ang kalakaran ng...
Kailan ka, Mr. Bangayan, kailan ka nagsimulang sabi mo mabago ka lang. Kasi nagsimula itong importation, dati ang NFA ang sole agency allowed na mag-import ng bigas. Nagsimula ito nung nakarang administrasyon under the Arroyo administration. So, nung panahon pa ng Arroyo administration, ikaw ba ay nagpasok na ng mga bigas?
Hindi po, Your Honor.
So, 2010, after 2010 ka na lamang nagsimula?
2011 po.
Sino ang iyong, babalikan ko yung tinanong ni Senator Enrile kanina, sino ang iyong mga katulong sa mga ahensya? Kasi mahirap pasukin dito eh. Alam naman natin yan, ganyan ang kalakaran. Lalo na't ang iyong kausap ay mga ahensya. Sino ang iyong mga kausap? Halimbawa sa NFA, sino ang nagpa-facilitate na ikaw ay makakuha ng mga permit to import?
Wala naman pong kausap kasi lagi naman po nilang ina-announce yun publicly in newspaper. Tsaka taon-taon na po yun, predicted na eh. Lagi naman po mayroong mga programa.
Hindi nga, pero wala ba tumutulong sa iyo sa proseso ng papeles, ng mga papeles?
Depende po sa programa. Depende po sa mga available na program po.
Kaya may tatanong, Madam Chair, just like to ask also probably the Bureau of Customs, Commissioner Sevilla or Secretary Alcala can answer. The authority to give yung itong minimum yung yung authority to import rice was started during the Arroyo administration, because before in the past it was just NFA was the sole agency to import that was allowed to import rice. So would it be easier, Commissioner Sevilla, to identify smuggled rice, because pag hindi NFA ang nagpasok ng bigas po rito, automatic madali hong mapinpoint, smuggled rice kaagad. Isa ba yan sa mga rason kung bakit hindi natin masupo ang smuggling?
Malaki ho ang idadali ng trabaho namin kung NFA lang po ang pwedeng mag-import ng bigas.
So, Secretary Alcala or our NFA administrator, probably can you could comment on this. Is it wise to transfer probably the operations of NFA not under the Department of Agriculture? Kasi dapat ang DA in charge ho sila ng rice production. Ang nangyayari po ngayon, ang NFA under the DA, kayo rin naman ang nagbibigay ng import permit. So, hindi natin maiwasan na baka magkaroon ng manipulasyon ng figures, ng prices, ng bigas sa dahilang iisang ahensya po kayo. You fall under the Department of Agriculture. So would it be wise, Mr. Administrator, to detach NFA from the Department of Agriculture?
Ito po kasi, Madam Chair, Honorable Senator, ito po kasi isang policy issue na malaki, pero kung halimbawa po yun yung mas maganda, kasalukuyan po kasi ang National Food Authority na nag-undergo ng mga reforms. Napakadami po nating reforms na ginagawa ngayon, and in fact, kung sakasakali po at magkakaroon ulit tayo ng mga darating na mga importation at i-allow po ito ng NFA Council, may mga proposal na po na ito po ay gawin ng interagency committee. Hindi po NFA lang ang magdi-decide. So ito po ay magiging isang committee.
And then it came, Madam Chair, it came also from Commissioner Sevilla that it would make their job to curb rice smuggling if NFA would be the sole importing agency. So kung bakit, alam naman po natin, alam ko meron ho kayong findings na rin, no? If I'm not mistaken, that naalala ko pa nga nun, sabi, you were swimming in rice, sabi pa nga ng Secretary, hindi na tayo kailangan mag-import later on, we will be self-sustaining. Kaya lang sa ganito, at the rate we are going, Madam Chair, if this is not acted upon, my worry is by come 2015, when AFTA takes in effect, baka naman hindi na talaga tayo makakompete, because it's becoming easier, more convenient for traders to import rice rather than encourage, improve the rice mills and improve the production. Secretary Alcala, are you doing something about this? Nagwo-worry lang ako kasi ngayon na meron pang import permits, rampat na ang rice smuggling, kapag nag-enforce na ang ASEAN Free Trade Agreement, all the more it will be hard for it will be difficult for the agri-industry to sustain itself.
Yan pong pagpapatuloy sa Senado ng pagdinig kaugnay sa issue ng Umano'y rice smuggling, at sa putong ito ay tinatanong ni Senator J.V. Ejercito si Agriculture Secretary Proceso Alcala kung ano nga ba ang ginagawang mga hakbang ng DA para tiyakin na hindi magiging talamak ang Umano'y rice smuggling sa ating bansa.